Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Okay. Do you guys consider yourselves digital marketing experts?
Not at all.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah, Will, I saw you try to slide that in there. Okay. Well, I think a lot of people get intimidated by kind of the whole aspect of digital marketing, especially if you're an operator, property manager, running your own business. And the OTAs are the easiest, fastest way to get great visibility, millions of potential guests. So it's kind of no wonder that your direct bookings kind of get lost in the mix. It doesn't become as much of a priority. But if you want more control over those direct bookings and you don't want to be paying all those commission fees, Atlas by TravelNet might be for you. They're going to set you up with a beautiful mobile friendly website because let's face it, we're all addicted to our phones. So it has to work on your desktop and your phone. Then they're going to set you up with your pay-per-click campaigns and a fast, secure booking engine that's going to drive all of that guest data into Track or whatever software you're using. So you can build this robust database full of guest information and keep that repeat business going. So if you want more control over your brand, schedule a free consultation with the marketing experts at Atlas. You can find that link in our show notes.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, you two.
Happy
Good
Monday.
morning. Yes, happy Monday.
Best day of the week. I'm feeling fresh. Are you guys feeling fresh? You ready for this
Feeling-
amazing week ahead?
Absolutely. What a great attitude to have.
There we go.
Feeling great with
There we
my
go.
Sojo coffee box. Thanks again, Sojo. Got the mug now to go along with it.
Oh,
I
you
know,
got the
so
mug?
cute.
I have not got my mug yet, but I think we've had some weird building issues in my apartment, so lots of packages have been missing, unfortunately.
My 4-year-old just now goes, "Daddy, I love your new coffee cup."
Oh my God. Great job, Ollie.
Yeah. Oliver's repping for the sponsors. I love it.
We love it.
Oh, I know we put it out last week. Max Farley, the founder of Sojo, was supposed to be on the show today. Unfortunately, we had some plane delay issues on his end. So we're going to have him in 2 weeks for all the listeners that were maybe expecting him today. But speaking of Sojo and being refreshed, I was camping this weekend out in the sand dunes, which was a lot of fun. Very much a needed trip for myself to detox away from screens, cell phone, all the stuff that we're just constantly glued to. And the coffee came in clutch. I saved the trip because everybody was like, oh yeah, we're gonna be at this great campsite, it's gonna be dope. And we show up and maybe we were all expecting a little bit much for a camping ground, but there was no running water, there was no electricity, there was no bathroom, there's nothing. It's literally out in basically the desert and lots of sand. It was great. I actually loved it for the kind of, I don't know, maybe more of a glamping person that I am. But when we all woke up from our tent sleeping and all that stuff, the coffee was very much needed. And man, oh man, was everyone excited to have some. And it was really good, actually. So we had a good pot of coffee.
Filters along too.
I did. Yes. I don't have them with me. And I can't show them on the camera because we used them.
Attaboy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like having the volume. Like a whole pot of coffee is essential.
Yeah, 1 cup's not enough.
No,
So,
definitely not.
filter coffee is the way to go.
Amen. What was up with you guys this weekend? Anything fun and exciting happen, or Michael?
Yeah, Mr. Ford would be horrified by the story. I lit my propane grill and it exploded out on me in a not terribly violent fashion, but then proceeded to flame up like 6 or 8 feet high, and then was probably not too far away from exploding like hundreds of feet in the air with my grill along with it. But luckily my neighbor ran over with a fire extinguisher. So if you don't have a fire extinguisher in your own home,
Yeah.
definitely get one.
Yeah,
If you don't have one in your vacation rental, you should get one, because
Yeah.
my house might not be here had my neighbor not had one.
100%. Well, we're glad you're okay and that there was minimal damage.
Yes. Very much minimal and alive. That's great. So, Brandy, are you doing good? Good weekend? All is
Yeah.
well?
My brother-in-law's 30th birthday was this weekend. And so my sisters and a bunch of their friends rented one of our penthouses here in Miami. So we went out dancing and just had a great time. So it's always, I love that people come to my hometown to celebrate things. I don't have to go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Makes it nice when you're in a good city. Makes it really
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely.
Well, I'm excited for this episode. We kind of scrounged up some good topics, not scrounged, maybe discovered some fun topics along the weekend and this morning. So actually, Michael, I know you were eager to jump into one that you found. I would love for you to possibly kick off with this topic.
Yeah, if you're new to the show, you might not know how much of a Delta loyalist I am, but I got my 18 years of Sky Miles membership notice this week. Yeah, so I had a bad flight home from Barcelona, but aside from that, all experiences are good with Delta. They made things right after that flight too, by the way. So this week, Ed Bastian, the CEO, put out a statement that there is a gap of $300 billion of inherent demand that hasn't been met. So pent up demand of travel just in the US market, $300 billion. And it's in the article, it goes on to compare it to what China, as the rise of the middle class started to happen, their insatiable appetite for luxury goods. LVMH's CEO, it made the brand of Louis Vuitton and all of their sub brands. And we're kind of in this midst, according to Ed, on the US travel demand. And one of the coolest comments that I thought is consumers are cutting back in other areas, but they're expanding their travel budget. So people are chasing more experiences than things, which is bad for the LVMH group, but great for anyone in travel. And if you've traveled this summer, you will very easily see how high prices are across the board. I won't call it gouging because Jamie doesn't like that word. It is nothing but supply and demand and dynamic pricing. But when flights to Europe are, economy class seats are $4,000. Delta's doing great. They've had 28 of their highest cash days have all happened this year in company history. So when you're charging $4,000 for a trip, an economy seat to Europe, I can see how it's going to be a big cash day for you, Ed. So kudos to you. I hope prices come down eventually, but otherwise, keep up the great work.
Yeah, you really are. You're like the ultimate Delta brat. I have to give that to you. That's
Seriously.
some real loyalty. I it's really interesting because I think we know it's always airlines are like an easy industry to kind of give to be kind of hard on, but they can't adapt as quickly as a lot of other industries just from like the sheer scale and complexity of their operations. So just reading about how difficult it was when all the travel demand like bounced back in like kind of instantly and they were just so unprepared. So seeing them
Yeah.
still trying to catch up and make up that ground. And I think it is really interesting that people are trying to spend more on, these experiences and travel, which I always love. I think our generation really leans into that as well. But I think that just shows like it is more important. Like, if we have a finite and continually shrinking amount of money that we can allocate to fun things, do we want a new TV or, whatever, or do we want to go on this week-long vacation to France? I will choose France every time.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool takeaways from this camping trip, not to say that it was very experiential in the sense of travel, but it was great just in the sense of there was a lot of moments where we went to the sand dunes to go, sand surfing basically. And right in front of you one way was the beautiful mountains and the trees and kind of a river, kind of like the runoff from the glaciers. And then right behind you is the sand dunes. So like you could immediately do a complete 360 and have completely total different views. And our group, the big takeaway, we had a lot of fun, cool moments from the being at the fire pit or going into the actual falls itself and getting into that submersive, like cold water. Those were big moments, but the little moments, a lot of us were able to pause and like everyone would be talking. Some people would be throwing the frisbee. The dog would be chasing after the football. We're all having, and like music's playing and people are having great conversations around, and you could pause and you could just watch all of this happen. And then you see all the families and the children around you and everyone kind of just having the same type of experience. And that was the coolest part for all of us, was to have a moment of just watching all of this happen. And it was just like genuine connection, no screens, no TV, nothing to distract you from being in the moment. And I think that was super special for all of us. And I'm glad that experiences are going to be where people put their money, because I think for anyone in the hotel world, the restaurant world, and the short-term rental, vacation rental world, experiential, moments like that where you can just observe people enjoying life present, is really like what it's about. I think that's kind of our big driver, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I also find that, at least like personally, when I'm on in those trips or having those moments, you just feel like an immense feeling of gratitude that like this is the life you get to lead.
Yeah.
And, you don't, I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't love like clothes and nice things, but, like you're not getting that feeling from like those are like temporary, fleeting moments of like, oh, this is like a cool dress. But you have those like intense, real feelings of gratitude and happiness when you're sharing those experiences with other people.
Kind of like when we last minute walked into Zara in Barcelona and got to pick out outfits
That
for each
was
other.
yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, I
Definitely
think
one of those moments.
I was down in Miami myself with some friends this week, and we're so hardwired to like go. What are we doing next?
Yeah.
What's next? What's next? And it's really hard to be like nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beach,
Yeah.
pool, like coffee, bar, like I don't know.
Yeah, you just do it,
Um,
like go with the flow.
Yeah, it does. But it takes a little time to get used to. So, we've had some digital detox companies on in the past, and the minimum night stay is 3 nights, because the first day is like literally a detox. The second day is like retraining your body not to reach to your phone or your computer, and the third day is just like peace and quiet and like total serenity. So I love that. I need to experience one of those myself. It would be good. So kudos to you, Will, for unplugging, getting away from tanks.
I'm a little wrecked this morning, just in the sense of sleeping on the ground for 3 nights was, I thank God I invested in, good camping gear for this trip, because I would have struggled. But yeah, I'm a little sore, but feeling really actually, I feel actually really excited for this week. I, got my brain and juices flowing, so I'm pumped. Anyways, going into that, I had a little bit of FOMO. I'm not going to lie. Last week, while Michael was in Miami, Brandy was just off doing her thing and just crushing it as a COO. Because we had a little bit of a quiet group chat this last week, and then of course a lot of our colleagues and industry friends were at the Skift short-term rental forum, and I was catching up this morning, watching a couple of the recaps on YouTube, and messaging Jamie Lane to send us his link so that way we could watch him and Demi talk about the forecast and the future of short-term rentals and stuff like that. But we had a really good, I don't know, I think there was a lot of good conversations that happened. I think a lot of good people in the room and on stage. Brandy, I sent you a video. I sent us a video about Airbnb and their supply and kind of what they're, shifting towards. I would love to actually start with you getting some content and or context and commentary around kind of that whole session that we got to experience.
Yeah, so the main like topic was the kind of institutional partnerships that Airbnb has with multifamily operators around the company, like country, like Greystar, and about expanding, who can host and how, like another way that Airbnb is expanding their inventory. And so some of the conversation is about how this is kind of a callback to the original concept of Airbnb, using the platform to offset your cost of living, which is obviously a big topic for pretty much everyone in the country right now. And how that was, Brian's, original goal. And for me as a consumer that uses Airbnb, I also did my undergraduate thesis on the sharing economy and used Airbnb as an example. It was very idyllic and perhaps a little naive. But, I love that idea of people being able to subsidize the cost of living and, having big institutional partners adds another layer of legitimacy to the business. And I think that all of that is great. I think it's smart from Airbnb's side of trying to increase their supply, good marketing, strengthen partnerships, all those things. I find it to be very smart and all of those good things. As an operator, I don't love it, obviously. I think that it's, it leans into right now our industry is trying to standardize and professionalize because it's been so fragmented. And even though we've seen some consolidation, it's still very early days in that front. And so when you have a 1,000-unit building that has now potentially 1,000 individual hosts, it's just dramatically going in the other direction. And I think some of their buildings, they have a range of options, right? There's some buildings where the management company isn't doing anything and it's just like your responsibility is like the renter to handle everything. And I think there's others where there's more of a program where like the housekeeping is included. And that I think is maybe more the model where you like, hey, this is my house and the building's management does it. But when you have all these individual hosts, and we've talked about this before, there's just no control over the experience. And I know that part of Airbnb's message is like, with sharing individual rooms again and like having individual hosts, it's like this community, blah, blah, blah. That's not really what it is. And, what we're seeing now as a professional operator is like the expectations that people have when they're booking on Airbnb are the same as when they're booking at a hotel. Like, even though it's not the same product, people's expectations are like, this is an accommodation that I am paying for, and I expect a certain level of service. And so I also think that the realities of renting out your property, people just think it's easy. Like, I have the space, I can rent it. And there is a lot more to it. And there's limits, right? I think some of them you can only rent like 60, 90 days in a year, whatever. There's like an actual night limit. So you have the disadvantage of not having your inventory be available. And so that affects your placement on the algorithm. And then also, if there are hundreds of units in your individual building that are being offered for rent, I mean, just it's a lot of supply in a concentrated area. And so also, like in Miami right now, there's like 20 projects going up that offer either I have partnered with Airbnb or our condo hotel projects. I mean, there's just in this area in particular going to be a ton of supply. And so you're maybe not going to have the ability to make those ADRs that Airbnb is saying you can. So I mean, I'm curious. I do, I think it's, for better or for worse, Airbnb is kind of controlling the narrative around our industry. I don't think it's great that they are the biggest and loudest spokesperson because it's not representative of our industry as a whole, but they are the ones, kind of making the moves. So they get to control that narrative.
I think so. I agree with you on a lot of the idyllic pieces. I used to rent out my primary house during football season for 2 or 3 games a year. It's a ton of work to pick up all your personal items, get it cleaned to the level of a hotel. But you can make a lot of money in a short amount of time by doing it. The challenge that I think you might have skipped over is, Airbnb's slogan is live like a local. But if they wanted to continue that on, they should also encourage the traveler to act like a local. And when you're going to Miami or New York or Las Vegas or LA, you're probably not going to act like you normally would at home. And when you're mixing these buildings between short-term rentals and, long-term residents, you've got, and these are all true stories, you've got people puking in elevators. You've got parties that are charging covers to get into a rental property that you're living next door to. You've got, shootings, stabbings, bad things can happen. And without properly taking care of the property and having staff available and all of that, it can be a challenge for the Gray Stars of the world or the multifamily operators to navigate some of the harder parts of it. Now, all that stuff, I rented my house maybe 10, 15 times, never once had an issue. All the guests were great. It is definitely an exception, not the rule. But when the exception happens, it can get bad. It can basically turn off the entire program for the whole building in one incident. And I wouldn't doubt if that happens quite regularly at some of these properties where enough tenants move out because of it. But you will also, the other side of the coin, you will get people who opt in. Your travel agents, your traveling nurses, your consultants, people that are gone a lot. This is a fantastic amenity to be able to drop your keys off at the front desk and hopefully make some money while you're traveling regularly. That piece of it, fantastic. I do love the idealistic concept of renting out your apartment when you're not there, or if you just need a few $100 more to make ends meet. I've just, having worked at Noiseware for 4 years, I just know there's a lot of things that can happen in a short amount of time that the tide can change at some of these places.
Yeah. Well, we saw, what was it, 2017 when Airbnb went into the NIDO program in Tennessee. They partnered up with the building. All the tenants were on their own, basically. There was no real education or proper structure put in place. It's just like, hey, list your unit on Airbnb and you can either make more than your rent and if not, at least cover some costs, like you said, Michael, to make ends meet. And it was a horrible program. It was destroyed. It destroyed the tenants that wanted to live there and had the option to somewhat use it and not use it to the fullest capability. They just want to use it when they go home for the holidays or whatever it might be. But then, there was tons of parties. They didn't know how to clean. It was unorganized. The cleaners didn't know what to do.
I'll challenge you on it was a horrible program. I know it was a wildly financially profitable program.
Well, now, for Airbnb in the building, but horrible.
Was the experience for the tenants great? I think the guests had great experiences. I just think the tenants that lived there might have not signed up for what they were getting.
Yeah,
I'll disagree on the experience for the guests as well. I've heard horrible stories from a lot of the tenants that were there, especially through COVID. So I think it was profitable financially, maybe for the building or for Airbnb, but I think from a guest and operator standpoint or host standpoint, garbage, complete trash.
I think that anytime you mix short-term and long-term tenants, it's just not, it's why we aggressively steer away from that at Romy. Because it's just, there's to Michael's point, it might be the exception, but you have a couple exceptions that happen and that just paints the picture. And what I think is interesting is, and very smart on Airbnb's part, is when they're going into these buildings, some of them it's exclusive with Airbnb. So, but that means, some of them aren't, so they could be on any website. But I just think that I think that the experience for everyone over time, either people won't use the program as much as they think they're going to, and then it's just like a nice marketing piece that, doesn't really add up to anything, or it can just cause a lot of problems. And I think an example we gave a while ago is like people can leave Google reviews like for any address. And so you're going to have like thousands of people leaving reviews based on individual hosts at that apartment building. And,
Yeah.
again, I think they only launched the program in November, so they haven't even had like a full year. But maybe I'll go find one of the buildings down here and do some recon.
I have a friend
Yeah.
that just moved into the central building down here, downtown Denver. So hopefully that program is great because it's all ran by the building. They
Mhm.
just activate their calendar and let the team clean and do all the stuff and the check-in and all that. So I'm curious. I'm even considering that for myself when my lease is up in September. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think there's a big difference between building run and host run.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I do think building run can be well done if they have 24-hour staff, if they're there to intervene in an issue or stop something before it becomes too out of hand. Then those are the types of things that build your customer loyalty, not distrust, right? If a party starts to happen and the building comes and shuts it down, that's how you get that neighbor to be like, all right, these guys are on top of it. This is fantastic. Like now I'm actually comfortable renting out my place because I know they'll stop it. But the flip side, if it's host run, they're out of town, they don't have, noise aware or any other product that could help them remotely intervene, it's gonna cause problems.
Well, I'm curious for you guys as we're getting ready to wrap up and stuff, but one of the things we were talking about this morning, I was watching kind of some of the Skift recap stuff, would be, Tim Rosolio, who was a guest on the show once before, but also representing the Verbo side of things at Expedia and how they're talking about their tech integrator. Brandon, you made the comment on, Airbnb being the biggest spokesperson. Do you guys have a feeling like with, I think with especially Tim at the forefront at the Verbo side of things, he's a great representation of the short-term rental, vacation rental industry. I think he's a great spokesperson to have there. Do you think we're going to see Verbo, other players, including Expedia, now that they're trying to integrate their full tech stack for hotel and STR? Do you think we're going to see other companies rise up to become a better representation rather than just Airbnb controlling the narrative? Or do you think that it's still always going to be Airbnb in that sense of like the media?
So I think that, I love that there's other players that are focusing their energy on this now, or at least being more vocal. But I think that the ship has sailed because now the term Airbnb is ubiquitous. It's like short-term rentals are Airbnbs in the zeitgeist and the colloquial vernacular, whatever. And I don't see that ever really changing. That would have to be a dramatic shift in pop culture. That being said, from an industry perspective, I think there's definitely space. But everyone is playing serious catch up, and Airbnb has phenomenal marketing and PR. So there has to be some real serious money put into that. And also from like the tech side, as I think where those those OTAs have an opportunity is providing exceptional host support for professional operators, because that is something that I think we as operators feel is lacking across the board. We're like huge sources of revenue consistently for like their largest suppliers, and across the board, I don't think that we get the kind of support that our revenue should demand. So that's something, building loyalty within your suppliers is probably one of their bigger areas of opportunity.
Yeah, I think Airbnb is the vacuum. They suck up all the press, good and bad. They do get dragged through the mud in a lot of things. And the flip side of being dragged through the mud in a lot of things is you have a microphone and you can use it when good things happen. So I think Verbo's strategy is what Brandy just outlined. Be great to the great companies, promote them and what they want, and let Airbnb go have the spare bedroom or the extra rental unit in a Greystar building. That's not where a family is going to travel, and the family travel is Vrbo's bread and butter. Is Tim ever going to have a platform like Airbnb? I don't think that's not Vrbo's strategy. Tim will be one of the guiding voices in the professional, VRMA circuit, but not so much in the urban or mass media circuit. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Airbnb is doubling down on what got them to where they are, which is rent out your house, rent out your spare room. And Vrbo's doubling down on what got them, which is destination markets, family travel, beach houses, mountain houses. And if you don't get named in the Wall Street Journal about a mass party and shootings and things like that, then, the perception for the Vrbo traveler is Vrbo's safer. We know it's all the same supply in, Destin or in Breckenridge, but it isn't all the same supply in, Atlanta or New Orleans.
Yeah, I do always think it's funny when someone's like, "So are you? Is it Airbnbs or Vrbos?" And I'm like, "It's all the same."
Yeah.
Short-term rental, vacation rental, holiday let, whatever you want to call it, rental property.
Well, if Expedia or Tim or Vrbo want to get into the press and the media stuff more often, I know a great podcast that they could potentially sponsor and be a part of. No big deal. We can throw it out there, but that'd be cool. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Great comments. And I was just kind of curious as I was watching that interview this morning, just kind of like, okay, I really like the positioning that Tim is in. I think Vrbo is more known for that, and I think it's a great place for, like you said, Michael, for both parties to lean into their home roots of shared spaces versus destination travel, family travel, all that good stuff. So one thing I wanted to say before we wrap up, we kind of had a little bit of a slowdown just in the sense of like initiating this new segment that we did, the Hospitality Hotline. So I want to put it out there for all of our listeners that you can get yourself featured on the show by using the link in our show notes to actually ask questions, bring up comments, or if you just have a statement on something you've heard in previous episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I know we failed, or at least I failed to promote it more on the social side and on the show. So I wanted to put that out there. The hotline is still open for you. And of course, for our sponsors at Sojo and TravelNet, we have links in the show notes. You get 30 days free of the coffee and any amenity box that you want to try with Sojo. Plus, I know TravelNet is eager to work with any, enterprise level vacation rental management company that needs different things from marketing to tech and all this other stuff. So just make sure you use those links, get your demos, get your free coffee and free supply, and make sure to let them know you sent or you heard it from Good Morning Hospitality. And for you two, do you have anything exciting this week before we hop off?
No, I'm kind of going off of your vibes for the week. Just looking forward to like positive energy for this week. Lots to do.
Lots to do for sure. What about you,
Yeah,
Michael?
it's probably one of the most scheduled out weeks I've had in a long time, which is good because I'm at home. There's nothing like holding it back, but there are some interesting chats that could help navigate some cool things in the future.
That's exciting.
Maybe we'll get an exclusive sneak peek once you're ready.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Awesome. Well, for all of our Good Morning Hospitality listeners, make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already, our YouTube channel is slowly but surely getting a little bit better as we're optimizing that. So if you want to subscribe there, show some love, that'd be amazing. And then, of course, next week we'll have the one and only Jamie Lane to come on and share some industry data-driven topics and conversations. And then the week after following, we will have Max Farley, who is the founder of Sojo, coming in to talk about the strategy behind their amenities, their technology, and their logistics, and what they're seeing in the market with big operators and even individual hosts as they're scaling their businesses. So really excited for both amazing episodes coming up. And like always, we'll see you guys again next week.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.